What drives a person to murder, manipulate and destroy others just to hold on to power? These 10 women didn't just rule, they ruined lives in some of the most terrifying ways imaginable. Cleopatra played kingdoms like pawns in her deadly games, while Queen Ranavalona ruled her people through sheer terror. But why should you care? Because their stories aren't just history. They're lessons at the cost of unbridled ambition. Buckle up for a dark and disturbing ride into the minds of some of the most dangerous and ruthless women of ancient and historical times. Understanding how power can corrupt so deeply will make you see history and ambition in a whole new light. Watch and prepare to be disturbed. 1. Cleopatra VII, 69 to 30 BCE, Egypt. The last ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, Cleopatra VII, is often remembered for her beauty and romantic entanglements with some of Rome's most powerful men. But beneath the allure lies a ruthless leader who would stop at nothing to keep her throne and secure power. Let's discuss her background before unveiling the lengths that she would go to for preservation of her power base. Cleopatra was born in 69 BCE in Alexandria, Egypt, as a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek-speaking family that ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. She was the daughter of Ptolemy, the 12th Auletes, and likely his sister wife, Cleopatra, the 5th Tryphena. Cleopatra had 2 older sisters, Berenice IV and Cleopatra VI, and several brothers, including her co-rulers, Ptolemy XIII and Ptolemy XIV. Raised in the cosmopolitan city of Alexandria, Cleopatra received a comprehensive education in languages, philosophy, history, and governance. She was fluent in several languages, including Greek and Egyptian, an unusual skill for the Ptolemaic rulers, who generally didn't speak the local language. Cleopatra first married her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, as was the custom for royal families to maintain power within the dynasty. After Ptolemy XIII's death, she married her other brother, Ptolemy XIV. However, her most famous relationships were with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, with whom she had 3 children, Ptolemy XV, Caesarion, with Caesar, and twins Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene with Antony. Here are some key points about Cleopatra. Her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony were more than love affairs. They were calculated moves to preserve Egypt's independence. Cleopatra used her charm and intelligence to seduce Caesar, gaining the protection of Rome for her rule. After his assassination, she strategically aligned with Mark Antony to counter the rising power of Octavian, later Augustus. Cleopatra wasn't just using Roman men for alliances, she had no qualms about eliminating rivals. Her younger sister Arsinoe opposed Cleopatra's rule. Cleopatra had her exiled and eventually ordered her execution at the hands of Roman soldiers to ensure no one could contest her throne. Cleopatra's relationship with Mark Antony culminated in a war against Octavian, the future emperor of Rome. After their defeat at the Battle of Actium, Cleopatra realized the empire she fought so hard to preserve would be lost. Rather than face humiliation, she chose to end her life with a venomous snake, ensuring her legacy would live on in legend. 2nd Messalina, 17 to 48 CE, Rome. The wife of Emperor Claudius and one of the most infamous women of ancient Rome, Messalina was known for her insatiable lust for power and for pleasure. Her scandalous behavior shocked Rome, and her eventual downfall remains one of the most treacherous stories in Roman history. Let's look at her background before unveiling some of her controversial behavior. Valeria Messalina was born into a prominent Roman family, the gens Valeria. Her father, Marcus Valerius Messala Barbatus, was of noble lineage, and her mother, Domitia Lepida, was the granddaughter of Mark Antony and the niece of Emperor Augustus. This made her part of the Julian-Claudian dynasty. As a young aristocratic woman, Messalina would have received an education fitting of her status, focused on preparing her for marriage and managing a household. While details of her education are limited, Roman noblewomen typically learned Greek and Latin, along with practical skills in diplomacy and estate management. Messalina married the future Emperor Claudius when she was still very young. The marriage was likely arranged for political reasons, given Messalina's prestigious family connections. Together, they had 2 children, Britannicus and Claudia Octavia. However, her scandalous behavior, including rumors of multiple affairs, a bigamous marriage, and a plot to overthrow Claudius, led to her demise. Here are some key points about Messalina. Messalina was not content with simply being the emperor's wife. She wielded immense political influence and was notorious for her extravagant parties and sexual escapades. Her shocking behavior was so extreme that she reportedly competed in a contest to see who could bed more men in a single night, a contest that she easily won. While Claudius was a relatively passive ruler, Messalina took advantage of his trust, manipulating him to eliminate her political enemies. She had prominent senators and rivals executed without hesitation. Her ambition reached a peak when she reportedly married one of her lovers, Gaius Silius, in a secret ceremony while Claudius was away, essentially attempting a coup. After being implicated in a conspiracy against Claudius, he was shocked but hesitant to act. However, after his advisors convinced him of the threat she posed, she was ordered to commit suicide. When she hesitated, a messenger was sent to ensure her death. According to the historian Tacitus, she attempted to use a dagger on herself, but was ultimately killed by a blow from the messenger. Her name forever associated with betrayal and scandal. Third, Livia Drusilla, 58 BCE, 29 CE, Rome. Livia Drusilla, the wife of Emperor Augustus, was not only one of the most influential women in Roman history, but also one of the most feared. Her cold manipulation of Roman politics and possible involvement in a string of mysterious deaths left her as a shadowy figure behind the Roman throne. Let's peek into her early background. Livia Drusilla was born in 58 BCE to a distinguished Roman family. Her father, Marcus Livius Drusus Claudianus, was a prominent politician. She married Tiberius Claudius Nero, a man of considerable political standing, and they had 2 sons, Tiberius, the future emperor, and Drusus. Roman aristocratic women like Livia were typically educated in Greek and Latin, as well as literature, philosophy, and skills necessary for managing large estates. Livia was also known for her intelligence and political acumen. Livia's marriage to Tiberius Claudius Nero ended when she met Octavian, later Augustus. Although Livia was pregnant with Drusus at the time, Octavian became infatuated with her, and they married after she gave birth. Livia had no children with Augustus, but remained one of his closest advisors throughout his reign, using her influence to secure the succession for her son, Tiberius. Here are some key points about Livia. Livia was instrumental in shaping the Roman Empire. While Augustus may have ruled, many believed it was Livia pulling the strings. She secured the throne for her son Tiberius by eliminating rivals, some say through poisoning. This included Augustus's favored heir Marcellus and even his grandsons, Gaius and Lucius Caesar. There were whispers throughout Rome that Livia had a hand in her own family's demise. Livia was suspected of poisoning several family members, including Augustus himself. Whether by poison or political intrigue, Livia's fingerprints were all over Rome's power struggles. Despite her ruthless ascent, Livia died peacefully, a revered matron of the empire, on September 28, 29 CE in Rome. The exact cause of her death is not definitively known, but it is generally believed that she died of natural causes. Her legacy, however, was tainted by accusations of murder and manipulation, making her one of Rome's most chilling figures. Fourth, Bathory Erzsébet, 1560 to 1614, Hungary. Bathory Erzsébet Elizabeth, also known as the Blood Countess, is one of history's most infamous female serial killers. Her obsession with eternal youth led her down a path of unimaginable cruelty, where hundreds of young women met their deaths in her castle. Let's look into her early history. Bathory was born in 1560 into one of the most powerful noble families in Hungary. Her parents were George VI Bathory and Anna Bathory, both of whom were prominent figures in Hungarian aristocracy. Elizabeth had several siblings and was closely related to influential leaders, including the King of Poland. Elizabeth received an aristocratic education, which included learning multiple languages, reading classical literature, and studying etiquette. She was also educated in the ways of managing vast estates and political affairs, and her family was known for its connections to alchemy and occult practices. At the age of 15, Elizabeth was married to Ferenc Nadasdy, a Hungarian nobleman. The marriage was politically advantageous and strengthened the family's position. Together they had several children, but her husband's frequent absences during wars allowed Elizabeth to engage in her infamous acts of cruelty. Here are some key points about Elizabeth. Bathory was said to bathe in the blood of virgins, believing it would keep her young and beautiful forever. She was accused of torturing and killing over 600 young girls, allegedly bathing in their blood to preserve her youth. While the truth of this is debated, what is certain is that she tortured and killed hundreds of girls who worked as servants in her castle. Victims were subjected to unspeakable horrors, including being burned with hot irons, whipped, starved, and cut up. Bathory's cruelty was so extreme that even in a time when nobles often abused their power, her acts were considered beyond acceptable. Bathory's reign of terror ended when her crimes could no longer be ignored. She was eventually imprisoned under solitary confinement in her own castle. Elizabeth had been imprisoned there after being accused of torturing and killing numerous young women. She lived out the rest of her days in the castle in isolation and died alone on August 21st, 1614. On the night of her death, she complained to her bodyguard about feeling very cold and was found dead the next morning. Her story is quite infamous and has inspired many legends and tales. Fifth Empress Lu Ji, 241 to 180 BCE, China. Empress Lu Ji was one of China's most brutal rulers. After her husband, Emperor Gaozu of Han, died, she became the real power behind the throne. Her methods of maintaining control were as ruthless as they were chilling. Let's find out about Lu Ji's background. Lu Ji, also known as Empress Lu, was born in 241 BCE in Shanfu, China, to a modest though noble family. Her father, Lu Wen, was a local official. Little is known about her siblings, but she came from a family that was likely well educated and respected in their community. As a woman of noble birth, Lu Ji would have received an education suited to running a household and playing a role in political affairs. Although women in her era were generally not as highly educated as men, her intelligence and cunning, however, helped her rise to power. Lu Ji was married to Liu Bang, Emperor Gaozu of Han, the founder of the Han dynasty. She bore him 2 children, Emperor Hui and Princess Yuan of Lu. After Liu Bang's death, she assumed regency for her young son, using her position to consolidate power and eliminate rivals ruthlessly. Here are some key points about Lu Ji. After the death of her husband, Lu Ji quickly moved to consolidate her power by eliminating her rivals. She ruled as Empress Dowager, controlling the empire through her son, Emperor Hui. Lu Ji's cruelty became legendary. Her most infamous act was the gruesome chopping up of her husband's main concubine, Lady Qi, whom she saw as a threat. Luji had her rival's limbs chopped off, eyes gouged out, and ears cut off, keeping her alive in a state of unimaginable suffering. Despite her terrifying rule, Luji's dynasty survived for many years, largely thanks to her ruthless political instincts. However, her reputation as a torturer and murderer lived on, casting a dark shadow over her legacy. Empress Luji died of an illness on August 18, 180 BCE, at the age of 61. 6. Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba, 1583 to 1663, Angola. Queen Nzinga of Angola was a cunning and fierce warrior queen who defied Portuguese colonization and led her people through one of the most turbulent times in African history. But her path to power was paved with ruthless decisions and bloody battles. Let's peek into Queen Nzinga's background. Nzinga was born in 1583 in the Kingdom of Ndongo, in present-day Angola. She was the daughter of the king, Ngola Kiluanji Kia Samba, and one of his concubines, and she had several siblings, including her brother Ngola Mbandi, who would later ascend to the throne. Nzinga was highly educated for her time, being taught military strategy, diplomacy, and governance by her father. She was fluent in Portuguese, which would prove invaluable in her diplomatic dealings with the Portuguese colonizers. Queen Nzinga never married, though some accounts suggest she may have taken temporary spouses for political reasons. She adopted a son and successor, who she groomed for leadership, but did not bear any children of her own. Nzinga was a brilliant diplomat and military strategist. When the Portuguese tried to colonize Angola, she used both war and negotiation to protect her kingdom. She was known for her daring methods, including forming alliances with the Dutch to outmaneuver her enemies. Nzinga's ambition knew no bounds. She had her own brother killed to secure the throne, and she maintained her rule through sheer terror. Nzinga was known to execute anyone who posed a threat to her power, including family members. The sexual rumors of Queen Nzinga are clouded by layers of myth, exaggeration, and colonial bias. While some stories paint her as a sexually dominant figure with male concubines, these accounts are likely more reflective of the European tendency to sensationalize the lives of powerful African women. Nzinga's true legacy lies in her remarkable military leadership, diplomatic skill, and resistance to Portuguese colonization, rather than the speculative narratives about her personal life. Nzinga fought the Portuguese for over 30 years, leaving behind a legacy of resistance and resilience. While she is celebrated as a national hero in Angola, her ruthless tactics also make her one of history's most dangerous women. Queen Nzinga passed away peacefully at the age of 81 on December 17, 1663. She died of natural causes. 7. Queen Elizabeth I, 1533 to 1603, England. Elizabeth I is one of England's most iconic monarchs, known for her intelligence, political savvy, and strength. However, her reign was not without its dark moments. Elizabeth's willingness to sacrifice even family in the name of stability and power shows a much more chilling side to her rule. Let's investigate her history. Elizabeth was born in 1533 at Greenwich Palace, the daughter of King Henry VIII and his second wife, Anne Boleyn. Her birth was met with disappointment by her father, who had been hoping for a male heir. She had an older half-sister, Mary, and a younger half-brother, Edward, from her father's other marriages. Elizabeth received one of the finest educations of her time. She was tutored by scholars such as Roger Ascham and was fluent in several languages, including Latin, French, Italian, and Greek. Her education emphasized history, philosophy, and theology, preparing her for a role in governance. Elizabeth famously never married, earning her the nickname the Virgin Queen. She had no children, though she was courted by several European princes and nobles throughout her reign. She skillfully used the possibility of marriage as a diplomatic tool, but remained unmarried to preserve her autonomy and power. Here are some key points about Elizabeth. Elizabeth's rivalry with her cousin Mary, Queen of Scots, is well documented. When Mary fled to England, seeking refuge, Elizabeth saw her as a threat. After imprisoning her for nearly 20 years, Elizabeth signed Mary's death warrant, sealing her fate with the stroke of a pen. Elizabeth was known for her ruthless decision-making. She orchestrated the execution of key figures who posed a threat to her rule, including the Earl of Essex, once her close advisor. Her famous quote, "I have the heart of a king," was no empty boast. Elizabeth ruled for 45 years, but her reign was not without sacrifice. The bloodshed she caused to maintain her power left a chilling mark on England's history. She died on March 24, 1603, at the age of 69. The exact cause of her death remains uncertain because she did not permit a post-mortem examination. However, several theories have been proposed over the years. Some historians suggest she may have died from blood poisoning due to her use of lead-based makeup, while others believe she might have succumbed to pneumonia, tonsillitis, or cancer. 8. Queen Ranavalona, 1778 to 1861, Madagascar. Ranavalona I of Madagascar ruled with an iron fist, and her reign is remembered as one of the most brutal in African history. Her policies decimated the population of Madagascar, and her reign of terror is still spoken of with horror today. Let's look at her background. Ranavalona was born around 1778 in Madagascar, likely to a commoner family. Her father, a close associate of King Andrianampoini Marina, was instrumental in saving the king's life. As a reward, Ranavalona was adopted by the royal family, positioning her to eventually marry into royalty. Little is known about Ranavalona's formal education, but she would have learned the customs, governance, and military strategies necessary for ruling Madagascar, along with Malagasy spiritual and traditional practices. Ranavalona was married to King Radama I of Madagascar. After his death, she seized power, ruling as queen for over 30 years. She had one son, Rakoto, who became her successor. Here are some key points about Ranavalona. Ranavalona used harsh methods to maintain her grip on power. She ordered mass executions, often employing gruesome methods such as throwing her enemies off cliffs. Her rule was so harsh that it led to the deaths of up to a third of Madagascar's population due to warfare, executions, and forced labor. Ranavalona was fiercely opposed to foreign influence, particularly from Europe. She expelled Christian missionaries and executed converts, determined to preserve Madagascar's independence at all costs. Ranavalona's reign lasted for over 30 years, during which Madagascar became isolated and war-torn. Her brutal methods of control have cemented her as one of the most feared queens in history. Despite her tumultuous reign, she managed to survive a coup attempt by her son. She died peacefully in her bed at the age of 79 in 1861. 9. Agrippina the Younger, 15 to 59 CE, Rome. Agrippina the Younger, the mother of Emperor Nero, was as ruthless as any man in ancient Rome. Known for her cunning political maneuvers and unrelenting ambition, Agrippina's thirst for power knew no bounds. Agrippina the Younger was born in 15 CE to Germanicus, a popular Roman general, and Agrippina the Elder, a granddaughter of Emperor Augustus. She had several siblings, including the future Emperor Caligula. Her father's early death and her mother's exile placed her in precarious political positions throughout her early life. Agrippina would have received an elite education befitting her noble status. She was well versed in Roman politics, philosophy, and literature. Roman noblewomen were also expected to be highly skilled in diplomacy. Agrippina married 3 times, first to Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, with whom she had her son, the future Emperor Nero. After her second husband's death, she married her uncle, Emperor Claudius, in a highly strategic move that secured Nero's succession to the throne. Here are some key points about Agrippina. Agrippina secured her position by marrying her uncle, Emperor Claudius, and manipulating him into naming her son Nero as his successor. She was the power behind the throne during Nero's early reign. Agrippina was rumored to have poisoned Claudius to ensure Nero's ascension to the throne. However, her ambition ultimately led to her own demise. Despite surviving several assassination attempts orchestrated by Nero, Agrippina's luck eventually ran out. Nero ordered his men to kill her in one of the most brutal murders in Roman history. 10th, Theodora, 500 to 548 CE, Byzantine Empire. Empress Theodora, wife of Emperor Justinian I, was one of the most powerful women of the Byzantine Empire. From her humble beginnings as an actress, she rose to become co-ruler of the empire, using her influence in both the political and religious spheres. She was known for her remarkable rise from a humble background to becoming the wife of Emperor Justinian I. Here's an overview of her early life, family, education, and marriage. Theodora was born around 500 CE in Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, the capital of the Byzantine Empire. Her family was of humble origin, and her early life was far from the luxury she would later enjoy as empress. Her father, Acacius, worked as a bearkeeper at the Hippodrome of Constantinople, a popular venue for chariot races and other public spectacles. Theodora's mother, whose name is not well documented, likely worked as an actress or dancer. After her father's death, Theodora's mother remarried and, according to some accounts, took Theodora and her sisters to the Hippodrome to plead for their father's position to be passed to her new husband. It was a life of survival, with little privilege. Theodora had 2 sisters, Comito and Anastasia. Like Theodora, her sisters were also involved in the entertainment industry in their early years. Comito became a prominent actress, which in Byzantine society was a profession often looked down upon and associated with immorality. Theodora, like her sisters, became an actress at a very young age. In Byzantine society, acting was not only considered a low-class profession, but it often involved sexual exploitation and debasement, and women in this profession frequently doubled as courtesans. In her teens, she became the mistress of a Syrian official named Hecebelus, whom she followed to North Africa. However, when Hecebelus abandoned her, Theodora returned to Constantinople. During this period, Theodora underwent a spiritual transformation and left behind her previous life as an actress and courtesan. She became a devout follower of the monophysite branch of Christianity, which emphasized the divine nature of Christ over his human nature. This spiritual journey helped elevate her status and connected her to powerful circles in the capital. Theodora's beauty and intellect eventually caught the attention of Justinian, who was not yet emperor, but a powerful figure in the Byzantine government, serving as the heir to his uncle, Emperor Justin I. Justinian was so captivated by Theodora that he wanted to marry her, but Byzantine law forbade senators from marrying actresses, even reformed ones. To overcome this, Justinian persuaded his uncle to change the law, allowing them to marry in 525 CE. Theodora and Justinian did not have any children together, and there is no record of Theodora having children from previous relationships. However, she was a mother figure to many, especially in her efforts to protect and support women who were victims of trafficking and exploitation, likely influenced by her own experiences in her youth. Here are some key points about Theodora. During the Nika riots in 532 CE, Theodora's resolve was instrumental in quelling the rebellion. While Justinian considered fleeing, Theodora convinced him to stay and suppress the revolt, which resulted in the massacre of thousands of rioters in the Hippodrome. Theodora was known for her ruthless persecution of her political enemies. She used her power to eliminate rivals and those who opposed her or Justinian, often through exile, imprisonment, or execution. She was known for her political cunning and played a significant role in shaping Justinian's policies, including the persecution of religious heretics and political enemies. Theodora died on June 28, 548 CE, likely from cancer. So, there you have it. 10 of the most chilling, scandalous, shocking, and ruthless historical women figures.